Nigeria's economy grew by 3.98% in the third quarter of 2025, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. This is a slight improvement from the 3.86% growth recorded in the same period last year. The services sector contributed the largest share to the economy at 53.02%, followed by agriculture at 31.21%. Key drivers included crop production, telecommunications, real estate, and financial services. The non-oil sector expanded by 3.91%. Agriculture grew by 3.79%, a significant improvement from 2.55% in 2024. However, manufacturing growth slowed to 1.25%. The organized private sector cautioned that this marginal expansion is not yet reflected in the realities of small businesses and households. Business leaders state that the growth must translate into tangible relief for enterprises and citizens facing economic strain. While joining us for an expert analysis of the latest GDP growth as announced by the National Bureau of Statistics is economist Gbolahan Olojede. Thank you so much for joining us on Tuesday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good afternoon.
So how does this growth compare to previous quarters? And is it signaling a genuine upward trajectory, or is it simply a rebound from earlier contraction?
There is genuine growth, especially when you look at the year-on-year situation. We've not really had much problem about getting growth for the most part. The problem we have suffered from is translating the growth at certain levels to percolate down the ladder so that everybody could be a part of what you call inclusiveness of the growth. So there could be growth and it can just stay somewhere while the other people are not feeling it. That has been the problem. As far as the raw numbers itself is concerned, yes, there is growth. You can see it in the numbers of the corporations, for example. So you see their profit growing, you see their revenues growing. So there is growth, but is it getting down the ladder? The way the pyramid is. It could be just at the top there and it's not percolating. That has been the problem we have.
Now, of course, you just said the issue is the inclusiveness of this growth.
Correct.
What's the hindrance? Why is it not trickling down?
Because some of the ways for this thing to trickle down could be the market forces itself. But sometimes you cannot trust the market forces to do the job as it's supposed to do it. So you look for intervention. So sometimes government will say, look, I can see the growth, I can see the numbers being posted here and there and here and there. Mm-hmm. But because this segment or this sector or this stratum of the pyramid is not getting it, therefore I'm going to go in there and intervene so that somewhere, somehow, I can make it go down and more people will feel the impact of what is going on. So it's either you wait for market forces to do it for you, which may not happen, or which may happen very slowly, or you do an intervention, or you combine both, an intervention and market forces working together to get to where we need to get to as far as inclusiveness of the growth is concerned.
So how sustainable really is this growth in light of persistent inflation, exchange rate volatility, and of course fiscal stress?
Well, arguably, volatility has slowed down. We had serious volatility in the first quarter of 2024. And the numbers, I remember coming into 2024 with dollar rate at about 900 naira or 950. And it went all the way to 1,900. That is what I call volatility. But since the second half of 2024, some element of stability has been there. As a matter of fact, this year, 2025, the naira has appreciated against the dollar, albeit marginal, but that is what has happened. So on the exchange rate side of things, we are good. Relative to last year, as far as corporate profit is concerned, we're much better. So it could be argued that it is sustainable, but that is within a short period. Because if we don't intervene to make the gains, to percolate down all the way, it will eventually slow down whatever gains we are seeing right now.
Fantastic. I think I would like to go back to the inclusiveness aspect if we have some time. But when it comes to structural concerns, and we look at inflation still above 30% from what we understand.
It's below 30%.
Below 30%. What's the number now?
It's about 17, 18, or maybe
17,
we're getting
18.
close to 15.
Okay, but how is this GDP growth translating to actual purchasing power for the everyday Nigerian?
Okay, it goes back to part of what I said about market forces and probably intervention. So every December, we buy rice in my office, for example. The same rice that we bought for 85,000 last year, December, is selling for 60,000, 58,000 this year.
Okay.
So there has been some, reduction. So the inflation, and my wife said that the same thing goes for Gary. That Gary came down relative to what it was last year. So the inflation might be going down. How sustainable is it is the question you ask. So why is it going down? That is what will determine whether it will be sustainable or not. So if it is because of the harvest, so we're in a harvest season, by the time the harvest season is over, so those products that enjoyed lower prices because of harvest season will not continue to enjoy, we won't continue to enjoy the low prices. For those for which maybe there was government intervention because there were conclusions that the government allowed more rice to come in. So if more rice came in, of course, prices will go down. Are we going to continue along that line as well? If we don't, and that is what is driving the reduced price, it means that it will not be sustainable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is why it's a cocktail of market-related issues and specific intervention of government that will allow for sustainable gains like what we're seeing. So in the food area, and food is important. In fact, food, almost literally everybody needs food. And it's a key driver of inflation. So once you bring food down, headline inflation will automatically come down as well. But we have to be more deliberate about the sustainability side of things. Whatever we need to do with insecurity that is escalating right now as we're speaking, though we're not in the planting season, but we're in harvest. So if people cannot go into their farms and harvest, it means there might be consequences in the early part of next year if people cannot go back to the farm.
But you're tying, you're tying insecurity. They're all related. The insecurity aspect, the sustainability, and the inclusiveness. And when you started this conversation, you said that we might need to see either the intervention of the government,
correct,
wait for market forces to come in, or have a combination
of both.
So what's your recommendation when you look at all these factors?
I think because there are a lot of things that are going to change next year. Mm-hmm. And one of the major ones is the tax reforms. Yeah. Now, we have to measure when we start to implement. Because, see, tax is supposed to be an instrument of income distribution, among other things. So it's up to help distribute income. Is it doing it effectively? Is it going in the direction we need it to go? If we don't measure, we might not know in time and we might destroy some of the gains. So government has to pay attention to that. I also think that government needs to look at how further to be able to support startups and SMEs. You see, quite a number of these people cannot access funding. And you don't blame the banks. If they think the risk profile is too high, you can't go and put depositors' money in a high risk profile project. So what some of them actually need are what I'll call risk capital, equity type of capital. Who will bring those equity type capital to the table? That is an area where a government intervention can help. So we are saying, the corporates are making profit, they're making profit, but the people are not feeling it. If there is a way that we can make some of those gains to be set aside for deployment into equity, into risk capital investment in this small and medium enterprise, it will help them to scale up without the heavy burden of debt. See, we said they cannot borrow. That is number one. Most of them cannot borrow. Even those who manage to borrow, because of the risk profile, the cost of borrowing is too heavy. So they might end up dying in the process because of the burden of debt. So that is why one of the key interventions that I believe the government should look at is how to be able to make the gains in one sector, part of it to be set aside in an incentive-based way. So you're not forcing people to, do venture capital, but you're saying, look, I will incentivize you to be able to make certain kind of investment, which I believe will help to grow the economy.
So what does this growth rate, signal to foreign and domestic investors, about Nigeria's economic direction? Do you think they will be they will have more faith,
More confidence in the economy.
More confidence in it.
Yes, actually, it spells more confidence in the economy. In the oil and gas, for example, I saw recently that Shell signed, approved some other major investment in its Bunga oil field area. Those are confidence issues. And then when they see the capacity to consume going up, inflation coming down. If inflation is coming down, it shows that the capacity to consume will automatically be going up. If the amount I used to spend on food was 10 naira and it has now become 7 naira, it means I have additional 3 naira to consume. So it incentivizes those people who are outside and are looking into this economy to say, okay, let me come in and see what I can also make, since these people are creating opportunity to consume further. So it helps the confidence in the market, in the economy.
Now, when you were giving that example about SMEs, empowering SMEs and looking at the gains made in one sector, channeling that into SMEs, I hope I'm not misquoting you.
Yeah.
Which of the sectors would you recommend that has, probably made gains based on the data that you have that might need to, do that whole donation to or cross support?
Well, literally, okay. If we take a look at listed companies, listed companies, because their financials are public information, you can easily see their financials as required by the law. You will see those significant improvement in corporate profit. Some years ago, the CBN had tried something they call SMEs, small and medium, whatever. Essentially, it was similar to what I'm suggesting. But there were certain implementation challenges with that one, and it did not go as far as it could. Under that scheme, financial services, for example, were meant to set aside a portion of those profits for investment in this kind of businesses that we were speaking about. But what happened in those years was that people just see it as an opportunity to pass money to their friends and relatives, and it didn't work. It didn't work. But we can improve significantly on that. Look at it. The last time I checked, the venture capital fund that came to the whole of Africa in that year was not up to what went to India alone. That is because all this money are coming from abroad. There is a lot of competition, and Africa is not getting a fair share. We're not going to continue to wait for Oyinbos to come and fund our SMEs and our startups and all. We have to be able to have capacity, develop in-country capacity to fund them. Now, one of the ways to do this is what I'm suggesting. I'm saying, look, it is possible. Don't force anybody to channel their money. It's shareholders' money. You can't force them. But there must be a way to incentivize them to want to do it. And you incentivize them to want to do it, they will make it available. That's basically what I'm suggesting. Okay.
Now, what does the growth data imply for job creation, especially in labor-absorbing sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and the services?
Even in those ones that are not labor-intensive, it spells a lot of positivities. And I'll give you an example. One of the leading telecoms had it very bad in 2023 that his entire shareholders fund was wiped out. He went negative. And he couldn't even pay dividends. And they were scared. When you have that kind of a situation in which your entire shareholders fund, you cannot promote people. People are even scared that you're going to lay them off. You cannot make further investment. You can do anything. But you see, with the flip, that particular institution has gone from that to profitability, and the shareholders fund that was negative has become positive. Now, it is able to invest more. When it invests more, let's say it is investing just in the infrastructure necessary for its own businesses. Those infrastructure people are employers of labor. As they are coming to implement their contract, they are hiring people. And he is able to fund those infrastructure development. Even for the institution itself, it's able to assure the job of the employees, and it's able to hire them more or to promote existing staff. So as we are growing, it has implications for more employment being created. The question will be whether the employment that we are creating matches up to the number of people that are entering the labor market.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the percentage of growth that we're seeing, I believe that's 3.98.
Yeah.
Is this something worth having a party over? Or are we just celebrating mediocrity? What would you say?
We need a lot more.
Yeah.
We need a lot more. That's the reality. At the junction we're at, 3.98 will not take us to the glory land. So we need to be able to rev it up, which is why those gains, we don't have to just consolidate on those gains. We must expand it, bring more benefit of that gains to more people, to a fatter stratum of that pyramid. When you are able to turn those turbines that way, then we'll have more people, more turbines firing, and therefore the growth will be faster than what we have. What we have right now is still a small portion of that pyramid that is firing. We need more.
So what is the performance, of agriculture, which was one of the sectors responsible for this growth? What does it indicate about food security, given its weight in the GDP basket?
Yeah, it grew 3-point-something%. But that's not where we need to be. It is also growing, primarily on the commodity side of things. So our agriculture is still largely primary production. So you produce cocoa, you produce cassava. For example, we are said to be the largest producer of cassava. But find out how much do we earn from cassava every year, So we need to be able to produce more by working on issues around yield and stuff, farmers' education. We also need to move up the ladder, move away from just primary production to the value addition to what we're producing, so that people don't export cocoa and then go and buy chocolate back to your yard, which is what we used to do with fuel. Well, we'll sell our crude oil out there. We go out there and buy a refined product back to the country. Thank God that is changing gradually. But it is still largely that way in the agri sector. If we want the agri sector, the value chain to grow, we must be able to do more in the value add space, not just in the primary production side of things.
Fantastic. Now, when it comes to foreign direct investment, it's still sluggish in spite of the growth. What's deterring investors? Do we need to see a radical shift when it comes to policies?
Well, it's a journey as far as the FDI is concerned. We have to continue to assess the situation. Okay, FDI has started to pick up. There are a few things here and there that are coming in. But what are those things that are militating against those other ones that we are expecting that have not come in? There have been a lot of discussion. The president has visited a place. He had very successful discussions. We are expecting this much. How much of this much has come in? So if they are not coming in, if we don't measure them, we won't even know whether they are coming in or not. Then if we are measuring, then we'll know what portion has come in. Those parts that did not come in, why did they not come in? What do we need to do to ensure that more of those can come into the economy? So we need to be more deliberate about that. And if we are, we can actually get more of those things to come in.
Well, economist Gbolahan Olojede, it's always a pleasure speaking with you on Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.